You're asking for this class, go ahead and read through chapter 2, which talked about working inside of computers. Really what I'm gonna go over right now is kind of quick to go over. It's kind of basic. How many have ever taken apart a computer before? Okay, so all this should make sense. If you read the chapter, it should all make sense really quick and really fast. If you didn't read the chapter, it should still make sense. Let's see if this is. So, once again, the idea is to think about how we take apart, put together computers. And this talks about, remember, desktop computers and laptops, but in our field, we're gonna also have to start thinking about phones, tablets, all those other pieces, and everything has its own way of getting things back together as you go through. You should know really how to do it, the right way to do it, the right steps. I have a Apple iPad first generation sitting in my office. I took it apart, followed the steps, no problem. The one thing they did tell me is that on one of the ribbon cables, when you slid it out, to make sure that you kept the unit flat at that point because the connectors that were in it would also slide out. Know what it's like to take little tiny U-shaped connectors and try to slide them back in where they belong? It's almost impossible. So that's why it's still sitting in the box. I gave up on it, that's it, I'm done. So, we look at those type of things and what the best way to do it. Always think about what you're doing. If you're not sure about it, take notes, take pictures. You got a cell phone. If you're not sure what screws go where, or which screws you took out, take a picture of them before you take it apart, so you can figure out what goes back where. It said remove loose jewelry that might get caught. I don't wear any myself. I do usually wear a watch, but if I'm going inside of a desktop computer, I'll take it off. Because sometimes you're sticking your hand in the little areas. The last thing you want to do is get any of that caught. You got to think about those type of things as you're going through. That's why very rarely do you ever work on a live computer. No, the computer's still on while you're working with it, because if you're wearing jewelry and it gets across any of those contacts, it could short. I have seen a guy actually weld his wedding band to the back of a card once. He just happened to hit the right two connections. He had it on and it did not come back off. So, think about those. Think about how you can organize small parts, or how you're going to lay out your parts so that you know what goes back where. There's nothing worse than getting a pile of screws that are different shapes and sizes and trying to figure out which one goes back in which hole. So, some people actually use a piece of paper and label basically where they took them out of, and sort of set the piles that way. You can do it however you want. I don't really care as you go through and you do it. You don't stack boards on top of each other. Why? Why wouldn't we take our boards, our motherboards, our IC boards, our interface boards, any of those, just stack them on top of each other?
What about big crushers?
Well, static. The static alone, you cause a static charge between them, and when you pull them apart, release it. So we think about those type of things. These workbenches here are static workbenches. If you actually look underneath the bottom of them, you'll see a silver plate. That's we want them especially for that. Protect yourself against equipment. Don't ever use a magnetized screwdriver. Well, don't touch the microchips with it. We use magnetized screwdrivers all the time, just because it's easier, especially if you try to get down into like the board, and you try and get that little tiny screw with your big fat hands down in there. Magnetized screwdriver works out great. So you think about what you're going to do. Watch out for sharp edges. They can cut. I've seen people cut their hands all up. The backside of those boards where the solder connections come out, they are sharp. Be careful of those as we go through and think about those issues as you go through them. Before you even start and open it, one thing they always say to do is back up the information. It may seem silly. A lot of places you'll go to tell you not to worry about it, but you never know what can go wrong. Most places now, if you work in a repair shop especially, it's up to the person that brings the piece in to back up their information. It's not up to you. Because of that simple fact, something can go wrong. By putting a new video card in, nothing should go wrong. Murphy's Law. So we think about it. Always power down the system and unplug it, it says. Why unplug it? I powered down the system, why do I need to unplug it?
There might be some electric current going through the plug into this power supply, so there might be some residual power.
There could be residual power left behind. You always have that possibility when working inside a machine. So you want to think about how you're working and what's causing those type of things. Press and hold the power button for 3 seconds after you've done it. Now it'll drain whatever residual power hopefully is in it, especially in the capacitors that are on the board and stuff. You want to make sure there's no chance of any power on there. You know, have something, a plastic bag, a cup, a bunch of cups, a piece of paper, a mat, something to put all your screws in. There's nothing's worse than taking a tiny screw and losing it on the floor. You may not find it. You know, open the case. There may be different ways that you have to open. A lot of cases have latches. They have different little tricks opening them. So you'll learn about those as you go through. You know, we look at it. We looked at how the motherboard is mounted. Obviously, in this case, we're looking at this one. If the motherboard is mounted on this side, then this is the part of the case I want to take off. It's not going to help me to take off the part where the motherboard is because I'm not going to be able to get to any of the parts. You know, I love these pictures that you wear gloves. I don't know anyone in the field that wears gloves. Undo the screws. So open. If there's a case in this case, it has a little thing to open it with, but if not, you just slide the case cover off, and you can get inside of it. Sometimes you have to take the front bezel off. If that's the case, there may be little snaps that go along with it. Each one's a little bit different. So we look at how to do those and get those off. So once again, there's a lot. This one shows that there's a screw that holds the panel into place, a single panel screw. There's a lot of different ways. Once you got the case off, you're going to all be issued an ESD strap. They haven't come in yet. Hopefully they're here by Thursday. I'm still waiting for them. You'll all be getting one. Basically, the ESD strap will go onto your wrist, and you clip it onto the case. Okay. The whole purpose of this, that way, any electric static you may have built up in you, you will discharge it onto the case. Everything will be fine. And then after that, you should be able to see all the main components that are in it, all the other pieces that have been added to it. You go through and figure out what's where. Figure out how they have the cables set up inside of it, because it may make a difference how you're trying to put things back together or what you have to move out of your way in order to get to something. Especially the smaller the case, the more chance that something else is in your way that you're gonna have to move out of your way in order to make something work. You wanna think about that. So you wanna think about it, look around. This one shows he's looking up. You know, if I gotta get down to the motherboard to do things, I may have to take the expansion cards out. So I'll have to unscrew the screw on those, do it. Sometimes it may help me to make a diagram of where my cables are going, or at least take, like I said, take a photo with your camera on your phone. That way you can take a look and say, oh, wait a minute. Because when you end up with a bunch of little connectors left and you're looking at them going like this, where did they go? Or how did they plug in? It may make a difference. Sometimes they're keyed, sometimes they're not. You want to make sure you figure out which way it goes that you go through. So there's a bunch of different ways you go through and you look at how to label those off. I love these little ones right here. That's why I say take a picture. Because there's a little block here that has probably 12 pins on it. And there's certain things that will plug in. Like that may be the hard drive LED that shows up on the front of the case. The power LED lets you know there's power, you have a little LED, and those type of things. Well, if you don't know where they go, you can mess up. So you want to know where they go. Now, by doing this, where they took a picture, I can pull them all up. I'm not worried about it because I can see from the picture not only where each one of these connect in, but how they connect in. I tell the white wire goes that way, the colored wire comes this way. See what I'm saying? So I can't hook them up backwards. So we look at those type of things as we're going through and set them up. You know, picture's worth 1,000 words. In this case, it really is. As you go through and you do them. You know, we want to take out our expansion cards, remove any wire or cables that are connected to it first. And there could be a wire or cable connected to it, no matter what the card does. So we want to remove those, remove the screw that's holding the card in the case, grasp the card usually with both hands, and gently remove it. Sometimes you may have to rock it a little bit back and forth in order to get it out. But go ahead and get it out of there and try to lift straight up. You don't want to bend it out because it will break it. You don't really want to put your fingers on the edge connectors on the bottom because the corrosion from your fingers, the oils and stuff can stop a connection. You want to keep those clean. Once you're done, hopefully put it all onto the anti-static part or put it into an anti-static bag or put it somewhere so that it's safe whenever we take those cards out. Depending on what our system is, it may make a difference in how we have to take out the driver and the motherboards. I've been in systems before where I had to take the power supply out in order to get to the hard drive. It's just the way it's mounted. You can't slide the hard drive out because it hits against the power supply. So sometimes you have to remove other pieces as you go. And if you have to, once again, think about where those lines go, where all those connectors go that you are now unplugging. What plugged in where? You want to make sure that you get pictures or label them so you know what's going where so you can do it. Disconnect what you need to disconnect in order to get to the piece you need to get to. Okay. So you'll be very thoughtful on those type of disconnections as you go through and you make them. I love this one because this is the one that I was showing those little pins up front on. Those are the connectors that were there. Sometimes you may be able to read on the board here which ones of these are which. If you notice that some of these are color coded, sometimes they're not. Sometimes these are labeled, sometimes they're not. That's why I said always, whenever possible, because all of them will have a different color to them, wire, take a photo of it or mark down which one you got off of where so you know exactly where it's going back to. If you're lucky, you'll be able to, those connectors will be marked like they are there, and the board will be marked. So you know exactly where they go. Sometimes they're not. Can't always assume. If I have to disconnect the motherboard, take it out, I'm gonna make sure everything's out of my way. I'll take all my wires out of my way, all my connectors out of my way, everything out of my way, so that I can get to the motherboard easy. I'm gonna unscrew it from the bottom. There's a set of spacers that are in the bottom, because the motherboard has to stay away from the metal. So the standoffs, I'll do that. I'll unscrew it, get my free. Sometimes you have to move it one way or the other to unlock it from the case, and then you can lift it out. Once again, don't go yanking and tweaking on that. If you start to move it up out of the way and it's not going, figure out where it's stuck. You may have missed a screw, and it's easy to do. So look at those type of things first so you can figure out how to get those out. When you look at how to get them out, in this case, the screws in the corners, the screws are like through there and stuff, so you want to make sure. If you didn't get that screw, that thing isn't going to come out. And you'll be able to tell, because that's where you'll be kind of sticking out. So look for those things. Then try to grab on opposite sides of the board as you lift it up and get it out of your case. Once again, power supply, same thing. Unhook your cables, take the screws out, pull your power supply out. Sometimes you can lift them straight out. Sometimes you have to slide them one way first before they'll come out. Sometimes you have to angle them. Matters what your case is and how it goes in. You want to take the screws off that are holding the power supply to the case. We don't want to take the screws off the power supply itself. We're not taking apart the power supply, we're taking it out of the case. So you want to think about those sometimes as we go through. And like I said, all kinds of machines do it different ways. So we'll look at those things as we go through. So once again, as we remove the power supply in this case, there's 3 screws on this one there, one there, one there. Oh, the 4th one, which was right there, you already took out. So take them and we get it out of the case as we go through. This is the worst part, especially on desktop machines, because it matters how they're put in as to where the screws are or if there are screws. Some of the units have slide rails that slide them in and out and lock them into place that you could use. Some of them have screws in them. And sometimes the screws are on both sides of the drive, which means you got to take off both sides of the case to get to them. So you sort of look and have to figure out which way you have to go. Like I said, there may be a catch underneath the drive where it slides on a rail, catches, and you just have to reach under it, lift the catch and slide it back out. They're all a little bit different. And as you get used to doing them, you got to think about it. Once again, if you start to try to move it and it won't go, you have to figure out what's holding it in place. Yanking on it doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to give it a little bit of a pull just because of the fact it's in tight, but you hopefully don't have to do that as you go through and set them apart. In this case, it shows you this one has a little bit of a catch right there on the side. Pull on the catch, it releases it. You can slide the whole unit out as you go through. So there's a lot of different ways these can go in and out on a case as you take apart a case and look with them. This one shows a catch on it, but this is a whole unit catch here. This whole unit will slide out as one big block. So you can slide that whole unit out, and then it's easier to get to the screws on all the sides. So you gotta look at how the things are put together and how they come apart. And they're all different. There is no simple way to say, you know, we do them all this way. It no matter how they've been built. Putting them back together, basically, hate to put it this way, the opposite order you took it apart. So opposite order, put it apart, put it back together. You know, you can put the board back in, put the board in, put the screws in, make sure everything's set up and matches correctly. Connect all your connectors back in the same place. That's why it says pictures help as you go through and you do them. Make sure, like in this case, this is keyed so that this can only go in one way. Make sure, if you're not sure which way it's supposed to go. In this case, this is the main power connector to the board. If you force this in wrong, your power connectors are going to go to the wrong place and blow your board. So you want to be careful, make sure those go in correctly. You know, make sure everything gets back to where it goes, where it plugs in. Once again, this one's key, has a snap key that only goes in one way. And if you really take a close-up look at this, it's kind of hard to see, but all these this corner here and this corner here, it has an angle on it. It's not a square corner. So it will only go in one way. Connect all your power cables, connect all your data cables, connect all your different pieces that you need back where you took them off of. Or if you're replacing the piece, back to the new place on the board it goes. If I was pulling a motherboard out, putting a new motherboard in, I mean, where the connections go may not be the exact same place, but I need to figure that out, where those pieces are gonna go. In this case, it shows you a little bit better on where the different pieces go. Speaker goes here. The hard drive LED goes here. The reset button goes here. Power LED goes here. On and off switch goes here. So it will sit there and it'll mark it. And if there's a positive, negative side that it wants you to have, it'll show you exactly where the positive goes. Sometimes. And in good situation, that will happen for you, and that will make it happen. So we look at we look at it, putting it back together. We look at triangles, we look at clips, we look at different ways to make sure we know how everything's getting put back in, put back together on these things as we go through and we're going to set up. So we want to make sure that we're getting everything back in the right order. you know, the speakers connected, all the parts are connected as we go through. Laptops get trickier as we start thinking about things because of the size. It's a lot more condensed, a lot more exact on where things go. You know, we got to think about where those go and really what can we get to or will not get to. I don't care if it's a desktop or a laptop, all of them, you got to think about the warranty issues. You break the seal on it, does it void the warranty? Or are you allowed to upgrade the memory? Or are you allowed to, see what I'm saying? There are some of them out there that don't care. It says if you break the seal, you broke the seal, that's it. Even if you're just upgrading memory. So make sure you understand what you're doing and how it's set as you're going through this and those. Look at information. Once again, it's all about information, how you search for information as you go through. Think about your information as you go through. Make things happen. Determine what needs to be done and what you need to work with. The internet is our friend and it's our enemy. Why?
There can be a lot of false information.
Yeah, there could be a lot of false information, bad information in there that you got to be careful of. So you got to learn how to sort through it. But I want you sorting through information. I want you to use the information the correct way. So finding the right thing on the internet and trying it out, sometimes it's going to be trial by error. There's going to be sites that you're going to find that work very well. There's going to be sites you're going to know that you just don't want to go anywhere near. And you learn that over trial and error as you go through looking up this information. So we want to look at it. Manufacturer websites for information sometimes is a great place to go. Sometimes it makes no sense if you're trying to look at it and figure it out. Sometimes there's CDs with them that have diagnostics. Some of them have the diagnostics built right in. So we look at those different ways of looking at how they go through and set up, and we make things happen. So we look at those. You know, and I like this. If it becomes necessary to open up the case, of course we want to open up the case. We have a broken LCD screen. How else are we going to fix it unless we open the case? So we have to look at the way that it's done. We have to find the repair steps to follow because they're all different. Some have screws. Some are little clips. Some are little clips that you have to take apart a certain way, otherwise you break the clip. Then you got to replace that piece. So you look through all those things and how we go through and we make them. The nuts and screws on a lot of these things are so small, it's pathetic, and they're hard to see. You got to be especially careful when you're working with laptops and those type of things. Sometimes, like it shows here, that the screw for it is actually underneath a little cover, the little plastic cover that sits there. You got to remove that plastic cover first in order to get to the screw. So it's kind of hidden. Sometimes you got to do those type of things. Some of them will require special tools. Some of them you're going to find a tool that you're going to make work. I had a laptop for a friend that they gave me. First of all, it was older than dirt. I'll start there. And I got looking at it, and this one had looked like a torque screw. You know what I'm talking about, the star shaped? You look out star shaped, but right in the middle of it, there's a pin. So that means your torque has to have a hollow center in order for it to work, which is a specialized tool. Some places purposely did that, so you can't just use any torque screwdriver on it. Unless you're like me, you just go down to the drill press, drill a little hole in your torque and go for it. But you know, you look at those type of things you go through. But once again, same things. If we're gonna open it up, we wanna find a place to hook up our static strap. In this case, it shows that it's hooking up to the little metal connector next to the VGA port, video port on it, but it's metal to metal. Once again, methodically take things apart. Please, if you do this, label or pictures, because you're taking things out from everywhere. Sometimes you take things apart and you really don't have to, but it looks like the right thing to do. So you want to be careful on it and label them. One of the things that says in here, It says place screws on a soft padded work surface using white labeling tape. What I've actually seen people do before is actually take a piece of tape, masking tape or whatever, roll it over on itself so it sticks side out, stick it down on whatever so they can stick the screw right to it. Stops those little screws from moving. So that's something you can think about as you go through. Keep notes as you're going through so you know how to get it back together. You know, look at the manuals on how to take them apart and do it. Look at the different ways to do things. And I wish I could sit here once again, even with this, say this is the way you do it for all of them. Every manufacturer has a different way of taking it apart. Every manufacturer has a different way of getting to the different pieces. I've had cases before where all I had to do was remove 2 screws from on top of the keyboard slides out, and there's your motherboard and everything you need to get to. I've had other ones where I've had to take the whole case apart to get to it. So there's no simple way to do it. Each one's different. You gotta look it up and you gotta check it out as you go through. You know, once again, like it says here, find the service manual first. Think about the warranty if you need to. Make sure you have time to do it. Don't force anything. You don't want to break anything as you go along. Protect yourself against CST. You know, look at your connectors. Probably have plastic covers with a dental pick or a screwdriver. Be very careful as you're removing the different covers of the different pieces on it and this part. So, you know, you look at how you're going to get in there and get those connectors apart. Like it shows here, those little ribbon connectors or zip connectors as they're called. Usually there's a little catch on each side, so you have to use a small pry piece to undo one side and then undo the other before you move it out of place to get it to slide. So we look at those type of connectors. Taking apart and working on the laptop is truthfully an exercise in futility, because you just got to have the patience and the time to figure out how each piece goes. Just because it's a zip connector, you know, there's little slides on it that you got to get off on the sides. That means it's gonna come out easy. Maybe, maybe not. You don't know on how tight those connections are, but you want to be careful. You want to make sure whenever you're putting things back in a case, period, that you screw them only part way in first, make sure everything's seated okay and stuff, and then finish tightening them down without over tightening. You don't want to mess anything up. So, you know, we think about how we're going to open up the case, how we're going to get inside, how we're going to play with it, how those different pieces are going to happen. We're going to think about our documentation, our warranty, all those different pieces that go along with it. But a lot of times we think about it in regards to upgrades. If I ask all you guys to turn off your laptops and turn them over, some of you will have a door that will be marked memory. Which means you could open up that door and you put new memory in. Some of you don't. Some of them, the hard drives are easy to get to. Some of them, they're not. So upgrades are different on every single one. So we think about it from that standpoint as we do things. So that's really, I mean, how simple it really is when we start talking about these type of things and what happens with them.